Keturah, the overlooked wife of Abraham. Did you know Abraham, the father of many nations, had a wife whose story is often overlooked? Her name was Keturah, and her life holds secrets that shaped the ancient world. Who was she? Was she a wife or a concubine? And how did her descendants change history? Stick around, because today we're uncovering the fascinating story of Keturah, the woman who helped fulfill God's promise to Abraham. 1. Keturah's name and symbolism. Keturah's name means incense or fragrance, and it's no coincidence. In the Bible, incense often symbolizes prayer, devotion, and offerings pleasing to God. Keturah's role in Abraham's life could represent the expansion of God's blessings beyond Isaac and Ishmael. Think about it. Just as incense rises and spreads, Keturah's descendants spread across the ancient world, fulfilling God's promise to Abraham that he would be the father of many nations. Her story reminds us that God's plans are bigger than we can imagine. Even though she's not as well known as Sarah or Hagar, Keturah's life is a testament to God's faithfulness. Her name alone hints at a deeper spiritual significance, a fragrance of God's promises reaching far and wide. So, who was Keturah, and what was her relationship with Abraham? Let's dive deeper. 2. Keturah's relationship with Abraham, wife or concubine. Here's where it gets interesting. The Bible gives us two descriptions of Keturah's status. In Genesis 25:1, she's called Abraham's wife, but in 1 Chronicles 1:32, she's referred to as a concubine. Why the difference? Some scholars believe it's because of cultural viewpoints. In ancient times, secondary wives or concubines had legal status but weren't equal to a primary wife like Sarah. Others suggest Keturah might have been Hagar, Sarah's maidservant, based on Jewish traditions like the Midrash. But here's the twist. The Bible doesn't explicitly say they're the same person. What we do know is that Keturah's sons didn't share in Isaac's divine inheritance. This distinction highlights the uniqueness of Isaac's role in God's covenant. So, was Keturah a wife or a concubine? The answer might be both, depending on the context. But one thing's for sure, her story is far from ordinary. Hey, if you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We're on a mission to reach 100,000 subscribers this year, and we can't do it without you. Your support helps us create more content like this, so like the video and click that subscribe button and join our growing community. Let's uncover more hidden stories from the Bible together. 3. Family tree of Keturah. Keturah had 6 sons: Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Each of them became the ancestor of powerful tribes and nations. For example, Midian fathered the Midianites, who later played a key role in Moses' life. Jokshan's sons, Sheba and Dedan, were linked to wealthy trading tribes in Arabia. Even Shua's descendants, like Bildad from the Book of Job, influenced biblical wisdom literature. These tribes weren't just footnotes in history. They shaped trade routes, fought in wars, and interacted with Israel in significant ways. Keturah's sons were a living fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham. They remind us that God's blessings aren't limited to one family or nation. They spread far and wide, just like the fragrance of Keturah's name. Isn't that amazing? Now, here's the real question. What happened to Keturah's descendants? Did they just fade into history, or did they play a bigger role than we realize? Keep watching because the next part will blow your mind. 4. Significance of Keturah's descendants. Keturah's descendants weren't just a side note in history, they were game changers. Geopolitically, they influenced trade, warfare, and diplomacy in the ancient Near East. The Midianites, for example, were both allies and adversaries of Israel. Spiritually, Keturah's sons represent the fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham that he would be the father of many nations. While Isaac carried the covenant, Keturah's sons showed that God's blessings extend beyond one family. Culturally, her descendants intermingled with other Semitic peoples, creating a rich tapestry of diversity. The Sabaeans, known for their wealth and trade, are even mentioned in prophecies about the Messiah. Keturah's legacy is a reminder that God's plans are vast and inclusive. Her story isn't just about the past. It's about how God works through every person to fulfill His promises. 5. Keturah in Jewish and Christian traditions. In Jewish tradition, some texts suggest Keturah was actually Hagar, Sarah's maidservant. This interpretation adds a layer of redemption to her story. In Christian tradition, Keturah is less emphasized, but her descendants are seen as a foreshadowing of the Gentiles coming to know God. Even Islamic historians acknowledge Abraham's other sons, though the Quran doesn't mention Keturah by name. These perspectives show how Keturah's story transcends religious boundaries. She's a symbol of God's faithfulness and the expansive nature of His promises. Whether you see her as a wife, a concubine, or a redeemed figure, Keturah's life is a testament to God's bigger plan. 6. Theological and prophetic interpretations. Keturah's story isn't just about the past. It has deep theological and prophetic significance. Some theologians see her descendants as a foreshadowing of the Gentiles being included in God's plan. In Galatians 3:8, the Bible says that all nations would be blessed through Abraham. Keturah's sons, who established nations outside of Israel, are a living example of this promise. They remind us that God's blessings aren't limited to one group of people. Just as Keturah's descendants spread across the ancient world, the gospel of Jesus Christ spread beyond Israel to the ends of the earth. Her story is a powerful reminder that God's love and promises are for everyone, no matter where they come from. Isn't it amazing how one woman's life can point to such a profound truth? 7. Abraham's death and Keturah's fate. After Abraham's death, the Bible tells us that Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, Genesis 25:8-10. But what happened to Keturah? Interestingly, she's not mentioned in this scene. This silence suggests that Keturah and her sons had already settled in their own lands, living out the legacy Abraham had given them. The Bible doesn't detail her death, but her influence continued through her descendants. Keturah's story didn't end with Abraham's passing. It was just the beginning of a legacy that would shape history. Her life reminds us that even when we're not in the spotlight, our actions and legacy can have a lasting impact. 8. Rabbinic and Islamic perspectives. Keturah's story is also fascinating when viewed through the lenses of rabbinic and Islamic traditions. In Jewish Midrash, some texts suggest that Keturah was actually Hagar, Sarah's maidservant. This interpretation adds a layer of redemption to her story, showing how God can restore and bless even those who seem forgotten. In Islamic tradition, while the Quran doesn't mention Keturah by name, historians acknowledge Abraham's other sons who spread into Arabia. These perspectives highlight the universal nature of Keturah's story. Whether in Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, her life is a testament to God's faithfulness and the far-reaching impact of Abraham's legacy. 9. Archaeological insights into Keturah's world. Now let's explore the archaeological evidence that connects to Keturah's story. While Keturah herself isn't directly mentioned in ancient inscriptions, her descendants left a mark on history that archaeologists have uncovered. For example, the Midianites, one of Keturah's most famous descendants, are well attested in ancient records. Excavations in northwestern Arabia, particularly in the region of Al-Ula, ancient Dedan, have revealed inscriptions, pottery, and settlements linked to the Dedanites and Midianites. These findings confirm their presence in the region and their role as traders and nomadic tribes. Another fascinating discovery is the incense trade routes that stretched from southern Arabia to the Mediterranean. The Sabaeans, descendants of Keturah's grandson Sheba, were central to this trade. Archaeologists have found evidence of their wealth and influence in places like Marib, Yemen, where the ruins of the Great Dam of Marib stand as a testament to their advanced engineering and prosperity. Even the Shuhites, linked to Keturah's son Shua, may be connected to the region of Suhu in Mesopotamia, where ancient texts mention a tribe with a similar name. These discoveries help us piece together the world Keturah's descendants inhabited, a world of trade, cultural exchange, and geopolitical influence. Archaeology doesn't just confirm the Bible's historical accuracy, it brings Keturah's story to life, showing us how her family shaped the ancient world. Her legacy isn't just a spiritual one, it's etched into the very landscape of the Middle East. 10. Keturah's lasting influence. Keturah's story, though brief, has a lasting influence that echoes through history. She represents the extension of Abraham's blessings beyond Isaac and Ishmael, fulfilling God's promise of numerous nations. Her descendants played major roles in Middle Eastern history, from trade and commerce to warfare and diplomacy. The Midianites, the Sabaeans, and other tribes connected to Keturah's sons were key players in the ancient world. Even today, her legacy reminds us that God's promises are vast and inclusive. Keturah's life is a fragrance of God's faithfulness, spreading far and wide, just like the incense her name symbolizes. Her story challenges us to see the bigger picture of God's plan, a plan that includes all of us. Keturah's story may be brief, but its impact is profound. She reminds us that God's promises are bigger than we can imagine. Her descendants shaped history, fulfilled prophecies, and expanded Abraham's legacy. So, the next time you read about Abraham, remember Keturah, the overlooked wife whose life was a fragrance of God's faithfulness. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep exploring the Bible's hidden gems together. Thanks for watching.